Welcome to Outsider Gaming. I'm your host today, Paul, and I'm joined by the lovely Colin Giles. He is currently the head of animation and VFX in Vancouver Film School. He is old like me. He has about 23 years experience and counting in the business. He has a very varied and interesting CV. He's worked in directing, animation, design. He's worked on very famous things like Ren and Stimpy. He's worked on Thomas and Friends. He's done ad work for the likes of Starbucks, big companies like that. He's also worked in movies with movie projects with like Rob Zombie, to name one, Adam Sandler, Seth Rogen. Yeah, quite an interesting CV. So, welcome, Colin. Nice to see you.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I hope I got all that right. I fact checked all that.
Close
That sounds
enough.
good.
Yeah, something like that. It's all good. It all sounds good. I'm so old now. Sometimes I forget. I'm like, oh yeah, I worked on that. That's fun.
I did that thing, yeah.
Yeah, I did that thing.
So speaking of, what takes you on such a journey like that? You start as, I'm guessing, animation, that kind of thing, and
Mhm.
you end up being like the head of a department in VFS. How does that happen?
I think it happens because I had no plan. I don't think you can plan this. It certainly wasn't like I was sitting in, late high school or early college thinking like I'm going to run this darn place one day. It was really just born out of really just a love for drawing, actually. And I fell in love with animation as an art form, so, in my teen years, which at the time made me not very cool, which is already, you know, layering not cool upon not cool as it was. I went to a
Be nice
school
to
that
you, like.
was, yeah, arts were really supported. I was really lucky, and my family was very supportive of it. And I had a lot of support with a really wonderful art teacher who kind of encouraged my parents to encourage me. And it was just never really in doubt that I was going to do something in the arts. I was just a kid in school that could draw well. And it was actually my introduction to the Disney animation films that made me think, oh, that's kind of interesting. I could do that. And I went on a tour of the Walt Disney Studios in Florida when they were there at the Disney World Park. And that's when I made the real connection, like, oh, this is a job. People actually do this. They're sitting there drawing and getting paid for it. I was like, that's it. Like there was never any other shift in my focus for that. So having grown up in northern Alberta, which was, definitely outside the core hub of where art
Where you
like
need to
animation
be.
gets done. Yeah, I
Yeah.
moved out to Vancouver and started in school there. My goal was always to work at Disney. It was always to be a hand-drawn animator at Disney. And I was lucky enough or unlucky enough, I suppose, and depending on which perspective you have, of basically going to school when Toy Story came out. So the art of 2D, hand-drawn animation was kind of in flux, and this 3D thing was going to come and take over our world, in similar dialogue that we're having with AI and in that world right now. We're all going to be out of work. And of course, that couldn't have been further from the truth. It just shifted and the industry exploded. But I was lucky enough that my first foray into professional work was 2D animation with Disney Interactive. I got to work on a lot of cool legacy characters, got to draw Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh. And from there, to make a very long 25-year story short, it was really just following threads and opportunity, and kind of almost some advice I would give young people nowadays is to almost like embrace the being naive and ignorant a little bit to it. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll just take this job over here and I'll work with this. And really what I didn't realize at the time was my greatest skill, I think the talent that I had was just working with people, and just being a good professional. I wasn't the most talented drawer in the world. I had just a bunch of general excitement about the industry, and really loved working with people. And
Yeah.
other than a few chunks of 6 or 8 months periods of time, I found myself not without work very often, and just jumped to different jobs and different positions, and became an animation director. And I did cleanup, I did in-betweening, I did animation, I did supervising, worked on commercials and games and TV, dabbled in Flash, at the time, Flash before Toon Boom, sort of.
Like the Flash games and animations and stuff, that was huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Back
then
in
of
the
course
early
Flash was being
2000s.
used in television shows as well. So I just kind of like moved in there, and would just sort of like every time a door opened, I would just kind of walk through it. And most of that came through networking, and just working with people and keeping up with college friends or people I had, animation, as you know, in gaming world is very small, and we're all kind of, especially here in Vancouver, it was very small and a lot of service work. So I was just meeting people from outside of Vancouver just by proxy. And yeah, I ended up working at a studio where we had this 3D production. It was a film that was starting in the studio, and they just asked me, do you know how to animate in the computer? And I said no. And they said, well, we like your work and everyone else here kind of knows you, and we need people. Would you be willing to learn on the job? And I said, yeah. So it was that kind of naive, ignorant thing, like, oh yeah, sure, I can do this. It's like, yeah, I can drive a motorcycle, or sure, I can fly a plane. And yeah, just kept moving in that direction. And I think at some point, the major fork in the road was, yeah, just a moment in life where I took a break. I took a bit of a sabbatical, and just kind of ran my course in my own professional standing. And I think I would be transparent and maybe vulnerable enough to say that I'd probably not trained myself to kind of deal with the rigors of television animation, where you're kind of on the 5th season of something. And so I just decided to step away and kind of dabbled in some freelance TV work. But at the same time, I kind of had this itch to teach. Being a lead or a supervisor in a production, you're kind of working with newer artists a lot, and you're doing a lot of teaching on the fly and mentoring. And so yeah, I started picking up some classes here and there, and I just fell in love with it. And this is, at some point I tell students this, that in your career you'll find the place where you actually do fit. It might not even necessarily be the place where you thought or wanted to fit, but if you're smart, if you become unignorant about it, you just have to look within and be like, oh, you know what, this actually fits all the skills that I've been building all this time, whether it's on purpose or you're just kind of granted with it. And yeah, and so I've been here now at Vancouver Film School for 10 years. So
Wow.
and even then I started as a part-time instructor, and now somehow I have my own office and run 3 programs. So you just never really know.
It's pretty good. I mean, I was going to ask what kind of advice you'd give to yourself or somebody starting out again, but it sounds like, yeah, just be open-minded and keep going for opportunities. As you said, you might end up doing something that isn't 100% a good fit for you, and you just adapt and evolve and change.
Yeah. And I have friends who have worked at the same studio for, they've worked at Pixar for
that's
25
them.
years.
Yeah.
And
Some
that's
people
them, and
might
they're
want to do the
great
5
at it.
seasons on a show and
Yeah,
keep going. They like that
totally.
one thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the way my brain works, I like a recharge, and this job is a daily recharge. It's always something new. There's new students with new ideas, new cultures, new voices. It's super exciting. And I get to, with my experience, which is very, very broad, it's helped me. So I give advice with a grain of salt, which is like, nobody wants me to just walk in and just tell them what to do. You don't want that, that kind of advice. But if people do come and ask for it, be like, hey, if you can learn anything from my journey to this point, is I look at it more of a horizontal, career rather than a vertical one, which is, even though there's that verticality in terms of experience, because I jumped around a lot and learned a lot from many people, I just have this kind of like wide spectrum experience. And part of that is not art based. It's people management. It's listening to people in, creating new curriculum and just solving problems as an administrator or as a manager. And then the biggest part of my job that I enjoy the most is then just getting to mentor students and encouraging them to just, follow their gut, especially when they're in school. I mean, obviously we have rules here, but it's really a place for them to find themselves and find their voice. And I see myself in that. And it's so much easier to look back on it in hindsight and go, oh yeah, that's what led to a career for me, was just this open-mindedness and just looking for opportunity, or stumbling or backwards bumping into opportunity. And then you just, from there, you have to then take it seriously, right? And put all your effort into being the best employee and the best colleague. And then by that point, you're also mentoring people around you. And it just becomes this sort of familial group effort, and you're a big part of the team. And at some point you'll be asked to maybe lead a team, and sometimes you're on the team. And all those skills, they all kind of like built into this melting pot of kind of what brought me here. So I try and instill that culture onto all three of our animation programs here, which is really just kind of seek yourself out in the work itself. There's always going to be time to build on your craft, but being a professional, just being a good artist, and by being a good artist, I mean being a good professional is someone who's curious and excited about things. And even as our industry is changing so fast, I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm sure you can recognize this too. Our industry has changed 3 or 4 times over, right? And we're on the precipice of maybe the biggest change we've had yet. And to me, I understand what the sort of scary parts of that are, but I also know there's opportunity there. So you just have to be open to all of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think as you said, if you're open-minded, and if you're as you said, professional, like if you're willing to work with people and make a good impression, like you'll end up building a network. You'll end up getting opportunities. You'll end up kind of finding your feet, I suppose.
Yeah.
The Vancouver Film School itself, wow, what a website! I gotta say, I was gonna just list off a couple of things, but I'm gonna do it justice. I'm gonna actually in front of me have these are bragging rights, by the way. So graduates from Vancouver Film School have worked on everything that you could ever think of that is successful. Just a few examples, and I'm right in front of me. So 22 alumni have worked on Luigi's Mansion 3. You have alumni who've worked on Halo Infinite, Ghostbusters movie, Free Guy film, League of Legends. Going into like the kind of superhero stuff, you've got the Avengers, you've got all that. I mean, it's a complete bragging rights. And again, this is an impossible question probably, but what do you think has led to all these, like there's hundreds of successes on this page, hundreds?
I think there's a couple points. I mean, it's hard to break it down into some easy points. I mean, we've been around for over 35 years now, so there's just sheer numbers behind it. And I know many other schools have obviously graduated students into major productions as well. But for us, it's just the sheer scope of it. It's all across games. It's all across film and television, advertising. We have students who've gone on to start companies. So for me, what I'm most proud of, since, in my relationship with Vancouver Film School, is when you look at the credits of these projects, you've got people in supervising, writing, producing, directing positions, and all the way through the production, and they're peppered with VFS in there. So it's really cool that there's such a wide scope of experience in there as well. For me, I think if I was to like point out the secret sauce, is the fact, and it's in our name, we're Vancouver Film School, and I don't think we've ever lost that fundamental value in story and storytelling. And I think that's where our students come out with a whole bunch of really great craft skills. They understand the industry, they're well prepared, they're being trained by industry professionals constantly. So it's like from the moment you walk in the door, it's kind of feels like a studio. But for us, it's every decision we make is based in storytelling. And so everything that students do has to have some sort of wrapping of story. It's not like everyone here is writing 3-act plays or feature films, but we respect the art of storytelling so much that I think that's really the secret underlying, almost subtextual idea about what's going on here. Is when you come here, you come to film school, and even though we've grown just beyond like the film production program, every aspect of our entertainment industry and beyond now, that's how we communicate, right? As humans, we communicate through story. So it's really important to us that our students are imbued with that value from day one, that they are here to be storytellers, and that we're here to listen to them, and that they're not just here to learn a specific set of skills that's just going to get them a job and then they move on. To me, it's amazing to see that range of experience in the credits that our alumni have gained, because you realize that we've been educating these students for a career, not training them for a job. And that means they've become adaptable. And it's really cool to like sometimes see names. I'm like, oh, that person worked on a Pixar film, and oh, look at that, they worked on Arcane. So they went from here to there. And there's like this really cool adaptability that's built into like kind of our culture here as well. So yeah, it's hard to pin like exactly why, other than I think that everybody that comes in here is all of our student body and our staff is everyone's sort of driven towards telling the best story.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like a talented bunch, and obviously you're getting young minds in, and you're molding them in a certain way, and hopefully helping them build their network and set up projects. Speaking of like courses and things, so you have your kind of 12-month course, I'm guessing, for
Mhm.
third level education, we call it here. Is there any other things? Are there scholarships, part-time courses, master classes, anything like that you can do?
Yeah, I mean, we are a slightly different school. First of all, we're a private school, and I should remind people of that. And that gives us some advantages. We can move very quickly, and we do move quickly in the fact that we're a 12-month program, so we have all of these different programs at the school, and all of them mirror this 12-month experience, which is a very intensive experience in the sense that we all of our programs have over 1,000 hours of training in them. So that's a lot of education to pack into 12 months. For us, it means the learning curve happens fast. You fail forward, meaning you're making the mistake in the morning and you're fixing it in the afternoon, and then you're getting a review in the morning, and then you're applying that information, and it's just iteration. So there's this sort of energy of just make it. Like, everything we do is applicable. It's all application. There's no theory. There's no quizzes. It's not like memorization. It's here's the information in order to create this imagery, and then go and then you get supported on that. So what we've done successfully over 35 years then is to take those ideas and figure out how can we package that for other audiences. And the main way we're doing that right now is through another department called VFS Connect. And VS Connect is our essentially an online offering where students from around the world can take intro classes. They can take weekend workshops in software development. We've done ones in machine learning. We've done an intro to Photoshop. We've done intro to Maya. We've got writing ones, film ones, acting. So across our school, we're able to introduce, people from many different, countries or experience levels to the ideas that you might want to use in our full-time programs, but also just for people who may not be able to come to Vancouver or are just looking to sort of like dip their finger in it, especially if you're like maybe older, or if you're looking to make a career change. You don't have to make that huge commitment. You can I'll just try this class that happens once a week. And we've had success with that, of people going, oh, this is really where I'm supposed to be. We are developing new courses all the time for that. So we're also looking at the highly advanced classes where maybe industry professionals who are looking to change, say, from game production to film production, or vice versa, or from TV to feature film, or want to level up in their craft or in their software skills, they can then come to us for that kind of training. But using that same fundamental value of, no matter what it is you're training yourself on, it's all going to be used for the purpose of telling a good story. So that's how we sort of approach that type of thing. In terms of scholarships, we offer scholarships in all kinds of different areas. So and what I love about our recent scholarships are they're kind of focused. So we had a really successful Women in Games scholarship last year, which also came with a post-grad internship, which was really cool. We've had Indigenous student scholarships. We've had region-based scholarships, so Latin American scholarships, European scholarships, North American scholarships, high school scholarships. And we're really out there looking for the best talent to bring in and give maybe some people who haven't had the opportunity or wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity a leg up. We have a really cool relationship with a high school in Manitoba here in Canada, where they have a donor who is giving out scholarships on their behalf, but they have to be used at Vancouver Film School. So it's an amazing relationship where we're helping these high school students. So even before they come to VFS, they know us, they've worked with us in workshops. So it's a really cool way of developing talent from a young age, especially when all these young people are quite aware of what's happening in the industry. They come in quite knowledgeable about where it is they want to end up.
Yeah. I think even looking at your website, like the courses you're doing, like they'd be the cool courses. You know what I mean? They're the things that I think I would want to do if I was going back.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a time machine, who knows?